Hello, this is the third homework assignment for Node.js Masterclass for Pirple. In this assignment, I was supposed to make a crazy pizza restaurant website, and here it is. I'm going to show you the app first, and then I'm going to show you the code. So this is the home page of the restaurant, and here the user can create an account or log in. So let's create the account first. I'm going to put in the user's name, last name, their email, password, and an address. So the user was created and it was automatically redirected to shopping cart. So at the moment there are no items inside, so let's create the first order and see how it works. So now we are on the create order page, and here I got a table of the pizzas available. I'm going to choose one of them. Then I'm going to choose the amount and create the order with the green button. Okay, so now we have the first order. I can see the date and the hour, the name of the pizza, the price, and then I can delete the order, I can edit it or purchase. So let's go to the edit, and here I can change my pizza, I can change the amount, I can see the application says that the changes have been saved. We can go back and see that indeed the order was changed. I can also delete the order. So after the deletion, I'm redirected to the shopping cart again. Let's now create an order and let's purchase it with the purchase button on the right. So in here I got some information to fill in about the credit card, and I got a tiny description about the order at the bottom. So let's purchase. My payment was accepted and the receipt was sent by email. So now I can show you that the email was received and the order is indeed the same. I can go back to my shopping cart, and there are no orders, so it's empty again. Now let's go to the account settings from the menu on the right upper corner, and here I can modify the user's data. So let's say I want to change my name. I'm going to save the changes. You can also change your password or delete the account. But for now, let's go back home, and let's go back to account settings, and I can see that my name was changed. So the user can log out. Afterwards, they can log in again, but they cannot access the shopping cart, obviously. Only the home page. So let's log in again, and let's delete the account. Okay, so now my account was deleted. I'm going to try to log in again. I can see that the user was not found. So that's it for the application, for the website. So now I'm going to show you the code. So as usual, I'm going to start with the index.js file when I'm starting the application. At first, I'm creating directories where I'm going to be storing the users, the orders, and the tokens. Afterwards, I'm starting the server and the workers. And the workers, basically, they delete the tokens that are expired and no longer needed. So let's go to the server file, So in here I'm initializing two servers for HTTP and HTTPS protocol, and it works exactly the same as in the last homework assignment. So I'm not going to go deep into that, but I'm going to show you the router array, which is now much bigger because it has routes for the HTML handlers and also for the API handlers, for the JSON API handlers. So let's take a look at the workers file. So in here I'm basically initializing it, printing out what I'm doing, then I'm deleting the expired files, and afterwards I'm looping. So every 15 minutes I'm going to check if there are some tokens that have expired and I can delete them. So to delete expired files, I'm using the workers gather all function, and in this function I'm just fetching list of files within tokens folder, and then I am checking using the validation function if I should delete it or not. And now I'm going to show you the handlers file. Okay. So in here I have a container of all the handlers that my website, my API uses. It has two sections, the HTML handlers and the JSON handlers. So let's go with the JSON ones first. So I have handlers for ping and not found. It's just very simple. The not found just returns 404, and the pigs return the 200. When it comes to users, I'm fetching the handlers from the users file, and the same goes with the tokens and the orders and also the purchase. So all of those JSON handlers are in separate files. Let's go with the first one, with the menu handler. This one is not used explicitly by the website. It's just there for the other handlers to be used for helper functions. It's basically getting a file called menu, and it's returning the data, the JSON array that's in there. Let's go to the users handler. This one is going to be pretty much the same as in the previous homework assignment. To create a user, we need the first name, last name, email, password, and address, and choose agreement. Then the user can fetch the data about themselves, and they can modify it or delete their account. And all of this is possible only if the token is valid. When it comes to the tokens handler, I'm not going to go much into details too, because it's basically the same as in the last homework assignment. Let's go to the shopping cart handler. In here, I'm going to fetch the orders. I'm going to modify it, create them, and delete them. So to get an order, I have to make a request to the get method of this handler. I verify the token, so if the token is correct, then I can fetch the data about the order. I'm getting the ID of the order from the query string object, and then I try to read the file that is called just like that ID. If I'm successful, then I'm going to return whatever is in that file. So now let's go to the post method. So when you use the post method, you're creating an order. First, I'm verifying the token again. If it's correct, I'm going to fetch the email of the user. I'm going to go to the user's file, and I'm going to update the array of orders. So I'm adding in another element to the orders array. If the user already has the maximum number of orders, that I have to return an error with number 400. Otherwise, I can validate the data that is used to create a pizza object. So I'm validating with the helpers method if the pizza ID is an existing ID, if the amount is 1 or less than 10. So let's go to that helper method now. So here I'm basically fetching the menu, which is an array of objects. Then I am checking if the pizza ID is existing one. I'm checking if the amount is correct. If the amount field is not in the object that was sent by the user, I'm just setting the amount to 1. And afterwards, I'm adding additional information like pizza name and the price and the total price, which is the amount multiplied by the price. So now that I got the token and the pizza object valid, now I can create the file and create an order object, a JSON object, and then save it to a file using the data.create. So now I'm going to show you the put method, which is used to modify an order. So first I'm fetching the order ID from the payload. Then I'm validating if the values are correct, and I can rewrite the file. If so, then I'm trying to read the file. I'm modifying the fields that were sent. Afterwards, I'm using the validate pizza again to update the extra information like the pizza name. Then I'm creating the order object again, just like in the creation, and I'm updating the file. Now let's go to the deleting of an order. So when I delete, I have to verify the token. I'm fetching the ID of the order, and afterwards I'm deleting the file. If I could delete the file, then I'm going to also update the array in the user's file. So I'm going to fetch the index of that order ID in the orders array, and then I'm removing it and resaving the user data into that file. Now let's go to the purchase order, purchase handler, excuse me. So and here I only got one method, which is post. At first I'm verifying the token. If that's successful, then I'm fetching the order ID from the payload, and I'm trying to read that order data. If that succeeds, then I'm validating the pizza information, if that's a correct data. I'm also printing out what I'm doing to the console. So if the order data is correct, I can go and process the order. So I'm going to send it to Stripe. So to process an order, I'm going to need a receiver email and order data. First, I'm calculating the charge, so how much the pizza costs. And then I'm creating a short description that I'm going to send to the user in an email. And then I'm creating some variables that I needed for the HTTP request to the Stripe API external service. Then I use the purchase method to send that request to Stripe. So as you can see, at first I'm printing out what I'm doing, and afterwards, if my details and payload are present, then I can go ahead and make a request. If Stripe returns success, that's 200 or 201, then I'm call back false. Otherwise, I have a callback with the error message. If the internet connection is broken during that, then I'm going to catch that over here in this lines, and I'm going to send an error message again. So if the purchase was successful, then I can go ahead and try to send an email to the user, and I'm using the send receipt function to do this. So in here I'm going to first validate if all of my fields needed are valid, that the sendlet, the receiver, the subject and the message. If so, that I am creating a payload with those 4 fields. I'm stringified it and trying to send that request with that payload to the MailGun. I'm using my API keys fetch for my configuration file. And afterwards, I'm making my request to the MailGun. I'm printing out whatever MailGun sent back and catching some error. Catching some error over here, and if the operation was successful, then I can call back false. Otherwise, I'll call back an error message. So if sending the email was not successful, I'm going to print out the error message to my console. Otherwise, I'm printing out the sent received message. So now I can go to the handlers file again and show you the handlers for HTTP. So this one are different because they are actually rendering my graphics on my website. So what I'm doing with those is I'm first creating a template data. That is the data that is injected into my HTML code, so I can show the user different information on each page. And then I'm going to invoke the create HTML handler. Let's go and take a look at it. So first I'm checking if the method was get. If so, then I'm going to get the template. Template is just a HTML file that is stored in the templates folder. Over here on the left you can see them. And then adding the universal templates, that is the footer and the header. So the top and the bottom of the site. And I'm returning back a string, which is basically just HTML. The last file I'm going to show you is the app.js file, which takes care of the front end. So when the Windows loads, then I'm invoking the app.init function, and within it I'm doing 5 other things. So let's go one by one. First, I'm binding the forms, which means that when a user submits a form, I'm going to catch that event and react to it. So first, I'm fetching the forms on the web, and then I'm adding the listener, and I'm fetching some of the information about that event. So the action, the ID, and the method that is used in the form. So with in the orders ID.html file, you can see it over here that each form has the ID, the action, and the method. And I'm fetching those over in these lines over here. Then I'm hiding the error message and the success message, which I'm fetching using the classes. So in the file you can see that I have two divs, one of class form error and the other div of class form success. And those ones are hidden in the beginning. Afterwards, I'm printing out some helpful information to the console. Then I'm fetching different elements of the form, like the check boxes and the select boxes, combo boxes, and so on. And I'm getting the values and putting them into a payload. And if the method that I'm invoking is delete, then I'm tuning that payload and saving into the question object. And afterwards, I'm calling my API with that payload, with that question object, with that method and path that was read before. Then I'm awaiting the response. If the response was not a success, then I'm logging out the user. Otherwise, then I am showing the error to the user. I am showing the success message inside that form response processor method. Let's go and check it out now. So in him, I'm basically first trying to figure out which form is it. So based on the form ID, I'm trying to verify what I should do. So if the account was created, then I'm going to go and create a new payload with the email and password and invoke another method, another API request, trying to create a new token and log in the user, so they don't have to do it themselves. And if the order was created or the order was deleted, then basically I want to redirect the user back to the shopping cart, and that's what I'm doing over here. I'm redirecting the user to another page. If the form was purchased, then I want to hide all the credit card information inputs and the purchase button, because they are no longer needed. So that's it for that method. Let's go to bind logout button. So in this function, I'm adding a listener to all of the elements that have a logout button ID. And if the user clicks on it, then I'm invoking the log user out method, which takes the current token ID and sends a request to my API trying to delete that token. Let's go now to the get session token method. So here I'm trying to fetch the token, and if it exists, then I want to save that token to the app.config.session token object, and this is going to be used within all of the methods in this file. And I'm also setting the log in the class. So if this is true, then I'm going to show a different menu to the user. If the user was logged out, then I'm not going to show elements such as the shopping cart. Let's go to the next method, which is the token renewal loop. So instead of having user to log in every hour, I want to renew the token automatically for them. I'm using the app.renew function to do this. Basically, I'm fetching the current token, then I'm creating a payload with that token ID, and I'm setting the extend feed to true. And I'm trying to refresh to modify that token to have it extended. If it succeeds, then I'm going to get that token and save the session token ID again. I'm going to update my session token so the app and all the methods in here in that file can use that new token. And the last function in the init method is load data on page. So when a form is rendered on my website and I need to show some information to the user, for example, when they want to edit an order, then I first need to fetch the data of that order to show them. So let's go to the orders edit page, to the load orders edit page function, and see how it works. So at first I'm fetching the ID of the order, it's in the path. I'm creating a question object, and I'm sending a request to my API, trying to fetch the data of that order. If that succeeds, then I'm fetching all of the elements which has class of hidden ID input, and I set their value to that ID, and I also fetch all the elements in my form, and I'm setting their values to whatever I want. In this case, that's the amount and the pizza ID. If this fails, then I'm going to redirect the user to their shopping cart. Let's take a look at another method that also loads a page, that's the load purchase page. So at first it's going to be the same. I'm fetching the ID from the path. Afterwards, I'm making a request to my API, trying to get the data of the order. If that succeeds, then I'm fetching the hidden inputs again. I'm populating the values, and then I'm populating the description div with some information. So you can see I'm fetching the element by ID description. If we go to the purchase.html, you can see over here that I have this paragraph with ID description, and that's how I can fetch it and populate it. That's it from me. Thank you.